You know, have you ever stopped to wonder what a buzzing beehive could possibly have in common with the Wi-Fi network that you're probably on right now? Well, the answer is a surprising amount, actually. Today, we're going to dive into a really fundamental security concept that keeps our digital world safe. And we're going to do it by looking at one of nature's best security teams, the honeybee. So come on, let's drink down and see if we can get past the guards. Okay, so it all starts with this one simple truth. A honeybee colony is basically a fortress. It's packed with all these valuable resources like nectar and pollen, and just like any place filled with treasure, it is constantly under threat from outsiders. The hive's entire survival really depends on its collective defense, and that's a lesson that translates perfectly into the world of cybersecurity. So just picture the entrance to the hive. It's the one way in, the main gate. And right there's a team of specialized guard bees, and they are patrolling with this incredible focus. They are the first line of defense. They are the non-nonsense bouncers of the bee world. Seriously, nothing gets past them without a really thorough check. In our world, this is the network's access point, that one front door that has to be absolutely secure. So how do they even do it, right? I mean, how can they tell a friend from a foe in that constant chaos of activity? It's actually a pretty sophisticated process. The guards use a mix of chemical signals, like the hive's own unique scent, and behavioral cues to verify the identity of every single bee that's trying to get in. If you smell right and you act right, you're in. If not, well, you're a potential threat. And what happens when they do detect a threat? Like when a robber bee from a rival hive gets a little too close. A battle breaks out. The guards don't just, block the door. They launch a fast, coordinated attack, and they will get the whole colony involved if they have to. They literally form this buzzing vortex to overwhelm the intruder and protect their home. The threat is just neutralized immediately. So this whole high-stakes drama, this natural process of identification and defense, it's not just some cool biology fact. It's a perfect real-world blueprint for one of the most fundamental frameworks in all of digital security. So let's take a look at how this ancient struggle translates to the protocols that are protecting our networks every single day. And that brings us to the AAA Security Blueprint. You can think of it as the hive's unwritten rules, but for our computer networks. Now, AAA stands for three really important steps: authentication, authorization, and accounting. And together, this framework answers three pretty simple questions. Who are you? What are you allowed to do? And what did you do?
So first up is authentication. That's the first A. This is basically the digital version of that guard bee sniffing an arriving bee. Before anything else can happen, the system has to be absolutely sure that you are who you claim to be. It's the most basic, but also the most critical step in this whole process.
And the question it's asking is simple. Who are you? And you answer this question all the time, every single day, with your credentials, your username and password. You're basically presenting your unique scent, and the system checks its records to see if it knows you. This is the first gatekeep. But here's the thing. Just because the hive knows who you are, that doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want inside. And that brings us to the second A, authorization. So once your identity is successfully authenticated, the system then has to figure out what permissions you actually have. Which leads to the next big question. What are you allowed to do? Are you a worker bee who's allowed access to the nectar stores? Or maybe you're a drone with more limited privileges. In network terms, this could mean which files you can open, which servers you can talk to, or even what time of day you're allowed to log on. It's all based on these predefined policies. And finally, we get to the third A, accounting. You can think of this as the hive's memory. The system basically keeps track of everything you do while you're connected. It logs all your activities, not to be creepy or invasive, but for really important operational needs, and of course, for security. And there you have it. That's the whole framework. Authentication, proving who you are. Authorization, figuring out what you're allowed to do. And accounting, keeping a record of what you did. This AAA framework is the absolute bedrock of modern network access control, just like these principles are for the beehive. Okay, so having a blueprint is great, but you need someone to actually enforce the rules, right? In the digital world, that enforcer is a protocol called Radius. Now, it's a bit of an old acronym. It stands for Remote Authentication Dial-In User Service. But its job is to put that whole AAA framework into practice. It is our digital bouncer. Okay, so what's really cool here is how perfectly these roles map back to our hive. You, the user, with your laptop or your phone, you're the supplicant. You're the visiting bee asking to come inside. The network device you're connecting to, like a Wi-Fi router, is the Radius client. That's our guard bee at the entrance. And finally, the Radius server is the ultimate authority. It's like the Hive's central database, its collective brain that holds all the user profiles and the rules. So, how do these three players actually talk to each other? Well, it all happens through a process that we often call the authentication handshake. It's this lightning-fast, invisible conversation that determines in just a few seconds whether you get access to the network or if you get rejected at the door. Let's just walk through it real quick. So first, you connect to the Wi-Fi and you type in your password. That's the request. Now, the access point, our guard bee, it doesn't make the decision itself. Instead, it encrypts your password and sends it in an access request to the main Radius server. The server then checks your credentials against its database, like a company's Active Directory. But it doesn't stop there. It also checks authorization policies, like, are you even allowed to log in right now from this location? Based on all that, it sends back either an access accept or an access reject. And finally, the access point gets that verdict and either lets you on the network or it kicks you off. Simple as that. Now, here's a really important security layer. How does the Radius server know the message is actually coming from a legit access point and not some imposter? Well, that's where the shared secret comes in. Think of it like a pre-configured password that only the client and the server know. It's their secret handshake proving to each other that they can be trusted. If a request shows up without the right secret, the server just throws it away. No secret, no service. And this slide just brilliantly shows the difference between authentication and authorization. So let's say you try to log into your work network on a Saturday. Your username and password, they're totally correct. So authentication is a success. The system knows who you are. But if there's a company policy that says no network access on weekends, then authorization is going to fail. The system decides what you can do, and in this case, that's nothing, so it sends back that access reject message. You're a recognized bee, sure, but the rules say the Hive is closed for business today. Okay, so you're authenticated, you're authorized, you're on the network. Is the system done with you? Not quite. This is where that final A, accounting, comes into play. Radius is also in charge of keeping a really detailed digital ledger of your entire session. So the second you get access, the access point sends an accounting start packet to the server. This logs who you are, your network address, and a unique ID for your session. And while you're connected, it might send interim updates to track how much data you're using or how long you've been on. Then, the moment you log off or get disconnected, it sends one last accounting stop packet, which summarizes the whole thing: total time connected, total data transferred, and even why you disconnected. So we've gone all the way from honeybees to complex network protocols. But why does any of this matter in our daily lives? Well, it's because those principles of centralized control and strict security that protect a Hive are exactly what huge organizations and even the public Wi-Fi you use every day need to function safely and securely. The real power of a system like Radius is that it's all centralized. Instead of trying to manage user accounts on every single switch and router and access point, a company can just maintain one central database. This lets them set super specific permissions for different people, easily audit everything for security or billing, and it all integrates seamlessly across their whole network. What does this all add up to? Control. It's how you make sure only the right people get in, and it's how you protect the Hive's most valuable secrets from any digital robber bees that might be snooping around. So the next time you connect to the Wi-Fi at a coffee shop or an airport or at your office, just take a second to think about that invisible handshake that's happening in the background. A system built on principles that nature has been perfecting for millions of years is verifying who you are, checking your permissions, and logging your access. And ask yourself, who is your digital guard bee?